Welcome to Ida's Kitchen. Bienvenidos. My name is Ida Lugo McAllister, and I am going to demonstrate how to prepare roasted pork shoulder picnic, Pernil. The Spaniards brought the animals to Puerto Rico. The animals, except for the piggies, were not able to adapt to the new environment, so they became sterile for a few years. The piggies, however, were very content on the island and were able to reproduce many little piggies. Therefore, pork is the preferred meat in our culture, especially during the Christmas holidays. We celebrate Three Kings Day, Dia de Reyes, on January 6, Epiphany. The pernil would be an excellent meat selection to celebrate this special day. I am going to roll up my sleeves to start preparing the marinade for the pernil using a mortar and pestle, el pilon. Here we have 8 garlic cloves. Add several garlic cloves to the mortar and with the pestle pound each one until they are completely crushed. Repeat this process. All the garlic cloves have been crushed. We can now add 1 tablespoon of black pepper, 1 tablespoon of dry oregano, and 9 teaspoons of light salt or to taste. Grind all the ingredients until well blended. Pour 3 tablespoons of extra virgin olive oil and 2 tablespoons of white vinegar. With a spoon, stir all the ingredients until a paste is formed. This is a pork shoulder picnic that weighs approximately 9 pounds. This particular cut of meat is the lower arm of the pig's shoulder. The pork meat has been rinsed, patted dry with paper towels, and placed on a glass cutting board. This is the skin, a layer of fat underneath it, and the pork meat. During the cooking process, the fat is rendered, keeping the meat moist and juicy. There are different methods of marinating the pork shoulder roast. Some individuals like to remove the skin along with the fat to marinate the meat underneath, and then place the skin back on top. I prefer to score the surface of the pork skin by making slits approximately 1 inch wide and 1 to 2 inches deep, using a sharp knife. Here you have the bone, so you can't go as deep. Turn the pork roast to the other side and make several slits as well. Here's the bone. The next step is to fill the slits with the marinade. Measure 1/4 teaspoon of the marinating paste and insert into slits. With your index finger, push the marinade down into the slits. For your information, more slits were made to the pork roast. Once all the slits are filled with the marinade, also rub the entire side of the pork meat with the marinade. Repeat this process to the other side of the pork roast. We also filled all the slits that were initially made on top of skin with the marinade. The remaining marinade was rubbed on the entire surface of pork skin. Place the marinated pork shoulder picnic in a roasting pan and cover with lid. Refrigerate overnight. After overnight refrigeration, preheat oven to 350 degrees Fahrenheit to start the baking process. I always recommend to use a meat thermometer to ensure that the internal temperature for pork meat is reached 160 degrees Fahrenheit. If you don't have a meat thermometer, make sure that you bake the pork roast for 30 minutes per pound. Since this is a 9-pound pork roast, it will take approximately 4.5 hours to cook. Insert the meat thermometer in center of pork away from the bone. Cover roasting pan with lid and place in oven. While the pernil is cooking in the oven, I want to discuss the criteria for a delicious roasted pork shoulder picnic. The pork meat should be juicy, tender, and thoroughly cooked. And the pork skin, along with the layer of fat known as cuero, should have a crunchy texture. For some individuals, this is the best part of the pernil. I only seasoned the pernil with a few condiments today. Additional seasonings are rubbed into the pork roast, including sofrito. This is my mother's simple recipe for a perfectly seasoned pernil. Let's check the pork roast for doneness. I uncovered the roasting pan, and the meat thermometer indicates that the pork meat pernil is thoroughly cooked with an internal temperature of 160 degrees Fahrenheit. Let's remove the meat thermometer. The last step is to crisp the pork skin, so let's continue baking the pork roast, but this time without a lid for an additional 30 minutes or until the pork skin has a crunchy texture. It took approximately 40 minutes of baking uncovered for the pork skin to have a crispy texture. Tap the pork skin on top with a knife, and if you hear a hollow sound, that means that the pork skin is crispy. Yes, the roasted pork shoulder picnic Pernil is ready. Allow the pork roast to rest for 15 minutes before cutting. The pernil looks juicy and the pork skin has a perfect crispy texture. We normally cut the pork meat into medium-sized chunks along with some pieces of the crunchy pork skin, cuero. The pernil is usually served with pasteles and rice with pigeon peas during the Christmas holidays. Depending on your rack placement in the oven, the pernil can vary in cooking time. This is why I recommend to use a meat thermometer. Since the pork meat is cut into medium-sized chunks, any leftover can be shredded to make delicious Cuban sandwiches and pork sandwiches. Let's taste the pork meat. The pork meat is moist, tender, and seasoned perfectly. This is the cuero pork skin. It has a crackling sound when you bite into it. Qué rico. I hope you have enjoyed watching my YouTube video on how to prepare roasted pork shoulder picnic, pernil.